I've been in this industry long enough to know that launching is often the exciting part. The mood boards, the samples, the first yes or first sale is so exhilarating, right? But what we don't talk about enough is what it takes to have longevity. I've seen designers rise quickly and disappear just as fast because trends shift, economies tighten, and customers over time acclimate and change their behavior. And after multiple decades in fashion, designing collections, running my own label, expanding into stores, and pushing back against the gatekeeping in the fashion industry, I can tell you this. Visibility might initially open the door, but it's not enough to keep your brand top of mind long term. In this digital era, the question isn't just how to get seen. It's about how to be remembered and how to make your customer feel seen, how to serve at the highest level so that you can build something sustainable. My guest today understands all of that from a completely different vantage point. With more than 20 years in media, from TV news reporting to podcasting to consulting to serving as VP of Brand and Communications in the behavioral health space, she has lived literally inside the world of storytelling. She knows what captures attention, but more importantly, she knows what builds trust and authority over time. So today we are talking about longevity, about resilience, about narrative, and about how to pursue visibility without chasing it. If you are building something that you want to last, not just trend, then this conversation is for you. So let's get to it. I'm excited to dive into this episode, but before we go all the way in, I want to be sure you've heard about the label launch blueprint. Staying stuck in DIY mode has caused too many talented designers to burn out. So after decades of experience in the fashion industry, I've taken all of my brand, design, sample development, marketing, and production expertise and put together an easy to follow step-by-step roadmap so you can take the guesswork out of your launch strategy. No more going around in circles, wondering what to do when and how to do it, and not having support along the way. I want you to give yourself the gift of clarity. Head over to cmdesignagency.com/label launch blueprint for more info, and I cannot wait to connect with you. Now let's get back to it. I am Charmaine Mischel. I am here with media powerhouse Joy Sutton, who I could say so many things about, but Joy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Please tell us all about who you are, the journey you're on, and yeah, let everyone that's listening get to know you before we dive in.
Well, Charmaine, I feel like I've had many careers over my lifetime. I started out as a news reporter. I spent 10 years of my life in the news industry and also anchored. I went on to have my own television talk show on a CBS affiliate for 4 seasons. I branded my way and actually was recruited into public relations. Spent the rest of my career now in public relations. And most recently, I am the VP of Brand and Communications for a national healthcare company. So I've had an enriching career, not where I thought I would land, but it has been fascinating. And I've learned so many golden nuggets along the way that I hope to share with your audience.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I know you are a wealth of information in the media space, but just to dive in a little more deeply before we go wide, what was it that first drew you to the world of media? And what made you realize once you were there that this was exactly where you needed to be?
That is such a good question because I was the kid who sat at the adult table and listened to all of the information. So I was
Mhm.
always a curious person.
Okay.
And I think curiosity is what made me know that I should be in media. But to be completely honest, I give credit to Oprah Winfrey. The reason why, and I
Mm,
think that's why so many people can be mentors without us ever
yeah,
meeting them, is that
yeah.
as a young girl, I would come home from school and I would watch Oprah. And as a Black young woman, I would say, huh, I want to be like Oprah someday. What I ended up doing is shaping my career around what Oprah did. I knew that she ended up going to journalism school, that she got into
Mm,
journalism, and then she went into having her own talk show. So I said, well, this is what I should do. And I'm
okay.
going to do exactly that. And ended up going to Howard University on full scholarship, majoring in broadcast journalism. It took me a year to find my first job, but ended up on air. And I
Mhm.
thought that that is where I would be all of my life. But little did I know that life has a way of reshaping you. That's what I love about it, is that you may think you're going down a different direction or one path, and God takes you in a little bit different direction, but
That's
it's
right.
all interconnected. And
Mhm.
so I love what I do today. I'm still part of the media. I've
Yes.
also have my own business on the side where I do consulting work and things like that. For example, I did a project with the Black and Missing Foundation and was their publicist when they
Mhm.
released their HBO documentary, Black and Missing. I got to go to The View. I've got to be in Soledad O'Brien's house and sit on her couch,
Right.
things like that. So I've had a lot of great experiences along the
Mm,
way. But I guess if I had to say what made me know, it's just being curious as a kid and then seeing somebody else that I just admired and saying, how did she do that? I want
mhm. That's the power of seeing people in spaces where you don't even realize you can occupy or get to one day. But seeing somebody in those far-reaching spaces as a youngster or even as a young adult, I think is so powerful. It's still powerful today. So, Joy, after 2 decades plus in this media and brand leadership space, what would you say it actually takes to make a brand voice or a brand just in and of itself resonate long term?
I think there are so many things that make a good brand. One, I think you have to be relatable.
Mm,
People have to feel like there is a connection with you. Because I
yeah.
look at a brand as you're just communicating to people. It's what do people say about you when you're not in the room? How do they perceive
Mm,
you? And
mhm.
that is all about connection and relatability and them feeling like
Yes.
you get them and understand them.
Absolutely agree. Now, visibility and earned media feels more accessible now than ever because, of course, everybody has access to all of these wonderful platforms that have blossomed over the last decade or so. But because of the accessibility, it feels way more competitive than they are comfortable with. What makes a brand story compelling enough in this landscape to get attention these days?
First, I want to make sure people understand the difference between owned media, paid media, and earned media. Owned
Mhm.
media is like YouTube. You own it. You're putting media out into the world, or maybe it's your Instagram channel. That is media that you're creating, stories, and you own it and you're putting it out into the world. Paid media may be you write an article that you pay to get published in a newspaper, or you pay to have a segment on a TV station. Many TV stations offer segments that you can actually pay for to get
Mm.
on and talk about your product. They look like news. The
Ah.
average person may not realize it, but that is paid. Earned
Ha.
media, I think, is the most impactful if you can get it because it's third party credibility, meaning you pitched to a reporter or they found you somehow on the internet and
Mm.
they didn't charge you anything to include a quote from
Yes.
you or to interview you and to share your expertise. And the
Mhm.
reason why that's so valuable is because, as I mentioned, it's a third party credibility and you're not paying for it. So people tend to believe more of your credibility or what you have to offer as an expert if you are
Mhm.
featured in a top publication or on a television station. It adds a level of credibility to you because they think if a TV station or a newspaper or something like that featured you, you must be an expert, that there
Mhm.
is some level of credibility that you have. So that's why I tell people as they're building brands, this type of earned media beyond your YouTube channel, beyond your Instagram
Mhm.
channel, but just earned media, whether that's a TV station, whether you pitch an article to a newspaper, whether you pitch yourself for a timely story that's happening in the news, all of that can be very impactful in how people perceive your brand.
Mhm. Mhm. So once a brand gets that level of visibility, that earned media, is it always a helpful thing, or could it be harmful in any way to get too much media too soon, or the wrong type of media? Is media, in other words, is all media, as they say, good media?
That is a controversial question. And what my personal opinion is any media can be good media depending on how you spin it. It's
Mm,
all in the narrative that you put out there. So let's just say there's a
mm,
negative story about your brand, but you come on and share your perspective and reshape the narrative around it. The good part about it is people who never heard about you, they heard about your brand. So from a brand awareness standpoint, it gets people looking and searching and curious about
mm,
who you
mm.
are. Think about how many times you've heard a story about someone, whether it be positive or negative, and you're like, who is that? And you go to research and you land
Right.
on their website and you're
Mm,
like, oh, or
mm.
you land on a story about them. So when I think of media, it is a possibility to get you in front of thousands of people who are not typically your followers. Because right
Mm.
now, when you're on YouTube or Instagram, those people are typically people who are following you or who have already bought into what you're saying or believe in your
Yeah.
vision and your mission. But what about people who've never heard about you or who don't run in your circles or you don't show up on their YouTube and Instagram feed? How do you hit those people without spending advertising dollars? That
Mhm,
comes from earned media because
mhm.
typically earned media depending on how big of a viewership they have or how big the circulation is, you're getting in front of thousands of people that would have never have heard about you, and it costs you nothing. It
Right.
is like free
That part.
advertising. The benefits of that free advertising is significant because it gets you in front of eyeballs that it may have never have come across you in a feed or
Mhm,
on a YouTube search, or even as they looked up Google, you did not show up. But all
mm,
of a sudden, you have a media hit. And I'm going, huh, I like her. What was the name of that
mhm.
company again? What does she say she's doing? Let me look her up.
Yes,
And the
yes.
next thing you know, you have people looking you up. And as I mentioned previously, when you're interviewed by the media, there is a perception that you are definitely an expert or you have been vetted. There's a perception that
Mm,
you have been vetted
yeah.
if you are being featured in a story that is on the news. So it
Mhm,
adds a level of credibility that I think is very important. So as you're building your brand, it is great to have owned media, which you should, like how you have your podcast here, Charmaine. It is important to maybe sometimes do a paid advertisement or a Google ad,
mm.
but don't underestimate the power of earned media. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Now that we're in the age of AI also looks at third party media coverage about your brand as credible. And it will pull information if somebody's doing a query or a search, pull information from trusted media sites into its search. So showing up in more media may
Oh, yeah.
mean you show up in more AI searches. And that is the future of where we're headed to. So
Mm.
you need as many people saying as many things about you so that when we start searching for your brand or type something into chat gpt or whatever, that you are one of the people who show up. Because if you tried
Absolutely.
it, let's say you went to chat gpt and said, tell me the top five brand designers right now or people who have new collections. What is the internet doing? What is chat gpt doing? It is scanning to see all of the information that's been posted out there,
Oh, yeah.
and some is viewed more credible than others to determine that list. And the question is, will you show up?
Right, right. There's a lot of conversation around being AI discoverable as a
Yes.
brand in the industry. What I love is that the playing field has been leveled to a point where even smaller brands can use the guidelines to start moving their own chess pieces and making sure that they also are ready for this type of discoverability. They don't have to wait to see how it works out for the bigger companies. They can often move faster too, much faster than the larger brands, which is something I love.
And I would tell people when you're thinking about discoverability, there are
Mm,
certain things that I would do. Your website, you absolutely need a website. And on that website, you need to have terms that people are searching for. We call those keywords.
right, right.
Because when AI is looking and somebody is doing a search, they're looking across websites to see, are those terms on your website? So your
Mm,
website, of course, some social media makes a difference. Um, Also, as I mentioned, that earned media, the
and
more
media,
people
yeah.
outside of yourself that are talking about your brand, the more credible and desirable your brand is viewed as by AI.
Sure.
So that's why that media coverage can make a big difference.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. So, Joy, you have literally mastered the art of storytelling. So, what is the recipe for a compelling brand story?
My opinion on that is that what you find is going to connect to your target audience.
Mm,
What is the message that they need to hear? What is it that they are looking for? How are you the answer to that problem? So even if you think about it, let's say as a designer, and you're catering, because I'm a plus size woman, you're catering to a plus size woman, then
mhm,
you want to tell a compelling story around how size is not a dictator of fashion, right? And that you can be beautiful and fashionable at any size, which is going to resonate with a woman like myself and make me want to know more about your brand. Because I feel like people have to know about you, they have to like you, and they
mm,
have to trust you. And the brand story is helping them to understand who you are and why they should connect with you and what makes your brand not just a brand, but it's human. It's a
mhm.
feeling that they
Yes.
can resonate with. And I think that those are the kind of things that you have to be thinking about as you are telling your brand story. But beyond that, when you're looking at how can I get media coverage, you can't just say, hey, TV station, I want you to do a story on my brand, because you know what they're going to say? That's advertising. And you need to pay for that.
Mhm. Ooh,
So,
okay.
in order to get free and earned media coverage, you have to tell them a compelling story. There are many ways to do that. One, you can find what's trending in the news right now. So, you can take a topic that's trending in the news or a new study that came out and say, hey, I can talk about this or I can
Mm,
add insight to this. So those are the ways: trending topics, recognition days, anything that's monumental that you think would be interesting. When you are thinking about pitching to a reporter, I would ask yourself, what makes this newsworthy? What would make me open up my phone or open up a newspaper and read that story? What would the headline say?
mm.
And that
Ooh,
is how you
that's
pitch a
good.
reporter. So, for
Yeah.
example, if I was a designer, I would pitch myself during Fashion Week. I would say, hey, I'm an expert. I have my own clothing line, and I can break down what are the top 5 trends in fashion that we're likely to see at Fashion Week. What's trending right now? So then you've positioned yourself as an expert, you've tagged on to something that's trending, and you've made them say, oh, okay, let me see if we get her in to talk about fashion and what's trending this summer based on what we're seeing in Fashion Week. Or you could say, hey, I want to break down how the everyday woman can take what she saw at Fashion Week or heard about at Fashion Week and put that into her own closet. How can she make that her own style? How can she translate that? And I would pitch myself out in that way to a reporter. Or if it's Small Business Awareness Month, I would say one of the businesses, did you know? I would look up some stats that, 50% of, businesses out there, I'm just making up a stat, are
Mhm.
involved in fashion. The fashion industry makes up 20% of all entrepreneurs or 50% of all entrepreneurs. I would do some research and say this Small Business Month, want to tell the story of a local fashion designer in your industry is who's one of 20% who are now entrepreneurs, and it's a growing industry. So that is another thing that can be really timely. Anytime you can take stats that can relate and you can share your story that way, those are really compelling. The third thing that I think is also really compelling when you're pitching to reporters is to have a personal story,
Mhm.
somebody who was touched by your brand, right? Somebody who was impacted. Those kind of stories, because reporters, you don't want to come across like it's an advertisement. You want to come across as I'm an expert in fashion
Mhm.
that is giving you insight. And as a byproduct of me giving you insight, you're going to mention my brand.
I love this, Joy, because I often talk about, with the designers that I coach or mentor, I often talk about them owning their position in the market and becoming an authority on that specific segment of the market and the category that they are offering to their customers, to literally be, if you're a jeans designer, literally being an expert on all things denim, all of the construction methods, all of the stylized, all of the finishes, all of the different dyes and textures, and being able to speak about what's happening in the market as well as the needs of the customer, and literally becoming an expert on the thing that you want to put out into the world. So I think, yeah, I'm with you on that. Having something to say, having a point of view, and hello, being open and willing to put yourself out there and say it loudly enough that others will notice that your brand exists, I think it is a big piece of the puzzle.
And I would agree, because when I think about the brand, you want to be, whoever is over that brand, you want to be a thought leader
Mm,
in
yeah.
that space. And so that is what leads to the earned media coverage. It's not so much
Mm,
your brand, it's the person behind the
yeah.
brand that actually ends up with the media coverage. At least that's how I see it, in my opinion. So you want to position yourself as an expert in
Mm,
whatever design element you are focused on, so that you can pitch yourself to publications and say, hey, I'm an expert in fashion. I specialize in plus size clothing that is comfortable yet chic. So women who are plus size can feel beautiful no matter their size. Whatever your tagline or however you've positioned that can be impactful when you're pitching yourself.
very good point, because oftentimes, even if you have a better product or you're a more meaningful or mission based brand, if you are kind of under the radar, another brand that is not even as talented or doesn't even have as much passion for the customer as you do, if they are showing up, if they are being visible, if they are being loud and standing proudly for what they're building, they will get the attention, even if you are, and I don't typically like to say better or worse brand, but even if you have a more meaningful brand, because you're so quiet, the one that, what do they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So whether they're doing as much work as you are or not, they get the visibility. Do you find that to be true, whether
We can
somebody is
just
the
do an
best in the market
example.
or not?
That is, we can just do an example of that.
Yeah.
So if you, when you think of laundry detergent, what's the number one that comes to your mind?
Tide.
It's Tide, right?
Yeah.
Because they did the most advertising, they had the
Right.
most visibility. Now, is Tide really that much better than Arm& and Hammer? Is it really that much better than All? We don't
I
know, right?
Right.
But they have created a brand story through their advertising that their Tide gets your clothes extra
Yeah.
clean, and that they are top. But if you're not using Tide, everything else is not as good. It is how they positioned it. Is it necessarily true? No. I'm
No.
sure there are other brands that are out there that may be just as effective, but it's how they positioned and told their story that left an impression that the first thing that most of us think when we say, what is the number one laundry detergent? What comes to our mind?
Hello.
95% of people would say Tide. And it's because of the brand story that they have told. And we, in our minds, believe that they clean better than most any brand because that's what they've told us and that's what they've represented. But most of us have never compared it to other top threes, laundry detergents out there. So I think that goes into what you're saying.
Yeah.
Visibility is the engine. The more visible you are, the more credible you're seen, and the more people trust you because they see it over and over and over again. So if I keep seeing Charmaine, your name everywhere or your brand everywhere, I start paying attention and I'm like, oh, she
Mm.
must be really good. She was just on her local news talking about Fashion Week. Oh my gosh, did you see? She was in this publication giving the top 5 tips of the summer. Oh, she's done this. Oh, she took pictures. I went to her social media and in her own media, she had pictures of herself at Fashion Week. She is somebody.
Yes,
It's
yes.
and did you know she has her own podcast and she has all these people on there and she's sharing all these stories? She's somebody. I need to pay attention. So visibility is a factor in how people perceive you. And sometimes the people who are most visible are not always the most talented. It
Not at
is
all.
all perception of what the story that you are telling and how people perceive that and connect to that. Because I know if, and even if you think about how Tide, if you go to the store, where they position their products is at eye level, where
Eye
they typically
level.
position.
Yes.
So they have positioned themselves, right? This isn't luck, people. This is
Yes.
positioning. So as a designer, how are you positioning yourself? If you say, well, I can't get earned media, are you using your owned media, your Instagram, your social media channels to tell your story? Are you giving fashion
Mm.
tips maybe on your YouTube channel? Are you showing design elements? How are you creating a lane that makes you visible for people to be able to see you? Because if I don't know about you,
Right.
then I'm less likely to want to purchase from you.
Right. And I think a lot of people, not just in the industry or new designers in the industry, I should say, they think that their talent is enough, right? And they want to be the face behind the brand. They don't want to be at the forefront. They want to do the work. They love what they're doing. They love who it's for, but they don't want to show up and be as visible as is necessary in this digital era. So I know you're a natural, right? It's like you were born for this, right? Just give your mic and you are an instant star. But what about those that find it harder to share their voice?
Mhm.
What tips would you give somebody to become more visible, to get over that hurdle so that they can participate in the market
And do
that they're
those.
passionate about?
Well, here's the thing. And I tell my team this now that I'm a VP of brand and communications and I oversee a team, is that
Mhm.
there's a quote that I love, and it says, the expert at anything was once the beginner. When
Mm.
I first started out, even though I had a baseline talent, I was not good. My news director told me on my first live shot that I was scaring the viewers and that I would have to change my entire personality. I was
What?
the person who, I am not even kidding. I would come back from a story and didn't know how to completely write it and go, oh my gosh, what they say, what was the city council meeting about? And I'm like, well, they talked about 10 different things. And I remember anchoring. And I used to be so nervous when I anchored. I'll never forget the first time I anchored a TV newscast. I looked like a deer in headlights. I did not blink. And
I
actually, I
know that
went out.
feeling.
Yes, and I went out to a
Oh
store,
my.
and this guy was like, "You were so nervous this morning on the
Mm.
news. I was worried that you were going to pass out, right?" I was like, "You tell me that?" But he told me that. And I remember when I used to read the news, I would go, "God help my natural look supernatural," because I would mess up. I wouldn't say
Ooh.
every
Say
word
that
correctly
again.
because when you're reading a teleprompter, it's not always easy. I
Wow.
wasn't the best teleprompter reader. So there's
Mhm.
2 things I would say. So what I realized is that over time, repetition breeds confidence. And one day
Mhm.
I was good. One day I did was able to show up. And so I would tell people you have to start and you have to do it. You're not going to be good
Yes.
in the beginning. Don't expect yourself to be. If you had looked at Joy Sutton when she was first a reporter, you would have been like, this girl is so green, I can't even believe they hired her. But if you were to look at Joy Sutton now, she's
Yes.
polished. She knows how to talk. You can throw a
Yes.
question at her and she talks with ease. That is a skill set that I
Mhm.
developed, even though I had a talent. So, speaking and visibility and putting yourself out there is simply about practice and repetition and doing it over and over and over and over again. I remember one person on my team asked me this question. She said, Joy, you're such a good strategist. How did that
Mm.
happen? And I said, when you get dropped in the middle of the ocean enough times, you learn to swim.
Yes.
And for me, I would say, and I would encourage all your designers, I was dropped in the middle of the ocean so many times, had no clue, and was
Mm.
forced to swim, that now it is my superpower. So the very thing that you don't think you're good at now, the very thing that you say, I don't know how I could do this, with practice and jumping in the middle of the ocean, you can get better. And then the second thing I would say, and I have to say this, is that I thought people wanted perfection. I
Mm.
thought as a news reporter, when I would read, I was so hard on myself in those early days because there were other anchors who could read perfectly. They didn't have any mistakes. But then I will never forget this. I was anchoring the morning show and I was flubbing and I had my things, but people started writing to me. And I'll never forget this. One woman wrote to me and she said, I never knew one person could change the course of my day simply by reading the news.
Oh, wow.
And what I realize is that people don't care about perfection. They care about authenticity. So
Mm.
while you're so concerned about putting your brand out and it has to be perfect and
Yeah.
I got to look perfect and I got to show up perfect and I got to sound perfect, what I have found is what resonated with people the most was that I was authentic. They didn't care that I mispronounced a name. They said, you
Mm.
know what? There's something about her that is authentic and I like her. And so
Mhm.
if we can get past the that it has to look a certain way, that it has to be perfect, and
Right.
just be authentic and real and know that we're going to get better if we keep doing it, then many more of us would put ourselves out there. And I would just say, get started, try it, keep
Oh, that
doing it.
part. Oh,
Drop yourself. I'm going to say
yeah.
this, drop yourself in the middle of the ocean, because the people who get dropped in the middle of the ocean and learn to swim are the ones who excel.
The hard way. Yes, 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 Joy.
It's
I'm
the
gonna
best way. It is
it,
I would not trade when I tell you my early years of the struggles I experienced and even all of the things that I went to become who I am today. The struggle is part of the learning. The
yes, I
struggle
agree.
and the not knowing and the figuring it out and all of that is part of the learning and the growth. The people who tend to be the most successful have failed so many times that they have been built the gumption and the resilience to keep getting back up, that they finally figured it out. You're just
That
seeing
part.
part of their journey. You're not
That
seeing the
part.
nights they cried.
Girl. Okay, now you're gonna make me you, you just brought me all the way back. I'm gonna remind you of the first time I met you. Do you remember?
Yes.
Joy, like I am living proof of what you just spoke about. The first time I met you, we were at a conference or a women's conference, I think it was. And there was a question that was asked, and volunteers were requested from the audience. And my thing is, I tend to do things terrified, even if I'm shaken to my bones, because I know if I don't do it, if I don't make a move, I might put it off longer. I might never do it. So the day I met you, here I am with my non-public speaking self going up to the podium, literally shaking in my boots to the point where I was brought to tears. And I said, I'm not going to sit down. I'm going to do it anyway. And then the next person to come up was you. Or did you go before me? No, I think you came after me. And then after I sat down and I saw you go up there, I was like, well, damn, that was really bad because she's so good. Like, what would possess me to go up there? But that same person who was shaking and crying and just feeling my gosh, so overwhelmed. I have a podcast. I've launched. I have my clients. I've done the hard thing. So I mean, I'm digressing. I know I'm digressing,
No,
but
but this is so
that's
important because
what I'm talking about. I experience over and over in my own journey. So it is so important that you're bringing it to light. So thank
and
you.
you
Go
know
ahead.
what I have to say? Let me just say this. I remember the first time because
Girl.
I had a podcast and am still going to do it again. But I remember calling you and saying, hey, would you be on my
Oh
podcast?
yeah.
And you were like, I don't know. I'm not really good. And I'm like, you'll be fine.
Yes.
Calm down. You've got
And I was
this.
like,
And when
ugh,
I heard full circle moment, this is another prime example. When I heard that you had gone from not only just doing that one podcast interview with me that you were like, I don't know, did I say, I don't know if I should do
I was
this.
like, I
And
don't
it
know if I
was
could
great to having your own podcast. I remember when I saw that your podcast at lunch, I like my jaw literally like dropped. I'm like, hold up. Is this the same person who was like, there's no way? Are you sure? And you
yeah,
wanted to back out of that podcast?
I did. I sure did.
And you did great. And
Oh,
then to see you come to this, but I think like that is the example
yes,
of
yes,
dropping yourself in the middle of the ocean and learning
yes.
to swim. So I don't know if that coming on that podcast in the back of your mind triggered something. Fast forward several years later, you are doing your own podcast. And that is how it will be. The more we put ourselves out there, the more we're
Absolutely.
willing to be vulnerable, the more impact we have and the better we'll be.
Yes.
And the thing about it is what I remember, Charmaine, about your story when you got up there at the conference, everybody was touched by it.
Oh,
Every single person, because it was so authentic and personal about how you got to the place that you are
yeah,
today of building your brand,
yeah.
that everybody resonated with it. It didn't have to be perfect. It was impactful. So if
Oh,
we can get away from it has to be perfect, it was that it
mm,
was so authentic and connected to so many people on a deep level that nobody cared that the microphone was shaking or whatever. They just
I was
resonated.
sweating.
Yeah, nobody noticed. Everybody was so in tune to what you were saying and the authentic
Mhm.
message. So I think if there's something someone could take away from what we're saying is just get started. You're not going to be good. Don't expect yourself to
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
but you do it anyway and you keep going. And the expert at anything was once a beginner. Nobody starts out amazing. And the problem
Absolutely.
I think with social media and things is we see people at a certain part of their journey. Plus, we don't see everybody's full journey if
Right.
we're being real. And honestly, as I have gotten to know more people and pull back the curtain on everything, I'm very
Mhm.
amazed at how many people show the bright lights but they don't show the tears. They don't
Mm,
show the time they almost closed down their business as an entrepreneur because they didn't
mhm.
make the money they needed.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't show that, but they show you and they're like, it's great. Live your best life. You got this, right? But everybody is figuring this thing out.
Yeah.
Very few people, and I've interviewed tons of people. I've interviewed like actor Tom Arnold. I've interviewed Oprah's
Mhm.
executive producer, just a lot of different people in the industry. I've interviewed Lamar Odom,
Mhm.
NBA basketball sensation. I've interviewed a lot of different people. And what I have come to realize is that all of us are just figuring it out. But the difference between many of the people who I've seen who've made it is they've had a belief that they could.
Mm.
When I've sat down with very famous celebrities, most of them have told me that they knew they were going to be famous because they believed in themselves. I remember I was interviewing Tom Arnold. He said to me, I used to have dreams of meeting Robin Williams, and he was my best friend. I
Oh,
just
really?
dreamed that that was a possibility. So he said, when I eventually sat in the room next to Robin Williams, I said to him, I used to dream about being your best friend, that I would be in this place.
Oh, my
But the
goodness.
thing that was so impactful and that was the through line in these stories is the belief system
Mm,
that it was
mhm.
possible and that they could do it.
Oh, I love it. I love it, Joy. And one more thing that comes to mind is like when you feel like you are like you have to do something, like you're destined to do something, 99 times out of 100 is even deeper than that. There's a reason, there's a level of impact that you want to make. That is not really about you. Even actors, I think about it when they're acting, when they're performing, they're putting out a work of art that's going to impact the viewer, right? So designers, people I work with, they're building a brand, they're creating, but it's not really for them. It's for others. So I think doing the hard thing is a little easier. Maybe it'll get you to take one little step forward sometimes, which is what worked for me when I got on that stage that day, because I wasn't at that conference for myself. I was there for those I was intending to serve. I was there for those who I was preparing to be fortified enough to pour into. So maybe thinking about the bigger picture. Sometimes I say your brand is bigger than you, right? And if it's not
Mhm.
bigger than you, then maybe you shouldn't even start a brand. Because if it's all about us, why would we do it? We would sit on the couch with our feet up, right?
Yeah,
But
we go, this is really hard. Do I really want to do
it's
this?
too hard,
But you touched on
right?
something that really hit me about who are you called to serve? Because sometimes
Mm,
maybe designers don't even think about that. But when I think about it,
yeah.
clothing gives a feeling.
Oh, yes.
Every single item I have, like I'm wearing this green
Yes.
sweater and it's comfy and it's cozy and it's warm.
Yes.
Just feel so loved in it, right? And it's
Mm,
bright and it's green and it's shiny
mm,
and it makes me feel like I stand out a little bit. And so you are creating a feeling. And even
yeah,
people who like focus on like plus size brand, at least plus size clothing brands for myself, it makes me feel seen that I'm
yes.
seen that somebody saw enough to say this particular type of person deserves to look beautiful just like anybody else.
Mhm.
So I love what you said about designers really looking and even all of us really looking to see who are we called to serve.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
even
yeah.
if it and just looking at the design as a vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Like what
Mhm.
I do, it's just media is just a vehicle. So design is just a vehicle to impact people's
100%.
lives.
Yes. Otherwise, what are we all doing, right?
Mhm.
What are we doing? Um, ugh, okay. I feel like we just ran a marathon. Woo! Because you brought me all the way back. Okay, so for a designer who is building in these uncertain times, you know, there's a lot happening around the world, in our country, socioeconomic issues everywhere. We're bombarded, and you still have to wake up, get up, and thrive every day, right? So, for somebody who's building in this time, who's questioning whether visibility will come for them at all ever, are they ever going to be able to get the level of eyes on their brand that they're hoping for? What would you say? What would you say to that person
Well, I
who's
think the first
doubtful?
thing is what I would say to that person is that first start creating your own visibility through
Mm,
own media, as we talked about. That means using your social media, using your YouTube channel, using the things that are available to you already. Start where you are. Have the website, all of
mhm.
those different things. As you begin to build your own visibility, people will begin to notice you.
Right.
Because a lot of times reporters are looking for people as experts in their stories and they go online and they look who's a designer, who's somebody I could reach out to. And if you have created enough of a wave, whether it's through your social media, YouTube channel, whatever blog posts that you're doing, if you've created enough of a wave, you're more likely to be seen. And I also think that you have to think about it like this. Some of us are called to hundreds, some of us are called to thousands, some of
Mm,
us are called to millions.
yes.
None of us know which level we're called to, but we're all called to impact. So just getting yourself out there, you might only be called to thousands. Maybe you're not millions, but for those thousand people, what you have to create and give to them through your designs may be life changing for them. They may
Yes.
not feel and show up beautifully. So I
Right.
think sometimes we're so caught up that it has to look a certain way, that it has to be big and bright lights to be
Mm,
impactful, but it really doesn't. Because
yeah.
all of us, I believe, have different levels of people that we're called to, but all just as impactful.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh, Joy, you have me like I'm a bit like I'm so full from
Well,
your
it is true. Well, because as
conversation.
I was thinking about that, that's so true because I think for the longest, I thought I would be the next Oprah. I mean, I hoped,
Mm,
I had put my career, I had patterned my career initially off of what she did. And for the longest time, I thought, oh my God, I didn't become the next Oprah, right? my journey didn't land exactly like that. But
Mm-hmm.
then I started to think, but maybe that was never my exact mission. Maybe I was called to other things.
Right. Right, right, right.
Maybe. And so I feel like even though I never at this point became the next Oprah, I did become the best version of Joy that impacted so
Right.
many
Oh,
people along the way. And
yes.
that is just as important. And sometimes we're so focused on the big limelight that we forget that there's still impact, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not as big as you envisioned or dreamed it would be. It's still impactful. There are
Mm-hmm.
some designers that I wear that their names aren't in the limelight, that maybe the average person haven't heard about them. But to me, when I put them on, they make me feel special. They make
Right.
me feel good. I feel warm. I feel cozy. I feel dynamic. I feel beautiful. And some people may have never ever heard of that brand.
I love that. Oh.
So I think we have to really dig in. And that's where I think going back to knowing you're called to make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Your story is never going to look like anyone else's because we don't all have the ingredients. We may be all building the same recipe, but our ingredients are different. Our talents, our viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
everything. And
Yeah.
so I think that if we can just focus on being visible and doing our part, the rest will come.
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
speaking to myself today. I'm giving
Woo!
myself a
You
pep
said
talk.
that.
I'm like, Joy,
You
what about that
said
podcast?
that. Oh my gosh. Woof. So much meaningful, helpful, necessary insight. So, first, let me just say thank you for all that you have poured out in this episode. And now I want to go a little bit deeper and ask, because you've had quite a journey, what has been the most fulfilling part of your own journey thus far?
Ooh, I would say what I love the most is when I had my television talk show.
Ooh.
And the reason why I loved it, it was like having the feeling of waking up with butterflies every day because I was that excited to be on set and just to share people's stories. It felt
Mm,
like indescribable. It was so it I woke up so excited, and I still wake up excited in my day job, but not like that. Like that was a time in my life where it was just a dream. It was a
mm,
dream. And then the other time I would share also is one time I was emceeing an event in front of thousands of people. And I remember having this feeling like this feels like home. Being on stage felt like home. It was an indescribable feeling too. So I think that the times that I have felt most alive have been on a stage or in a studio. And I
ah,
don't get to do those a lot these days. But when I think about what moved me beyond, just the generic everyday task, it was being in those environments.
ah,
So I do miss them. And I don't know if they'll show back up in my life at some point because when I left television, it was a very difficult choice. I cried when I
mm,
left
mm,
television. And it was a hard decision but I was given another opportunity to go into public relations, which I'm in now. And
mm,
I'll never forget, my news director at the time came to me and said, "You're giving up your dream. You are walking away from your dream." And I
mm,
prayed about it and I said, what I came to the conclusion of is I don't want to make decisions based on fear. I want to make decisions based on faith.
mm,
And so I left, not knowing if I would ever be back on TV again. And my journey has morphed in many different ways. And I've had experiences. Like I said, I got to be at Soledad O'Brien's living room, and I've been on the set of The View, and I've, gone to Access Hollywood and all of those things. So I've had little bits and pieces of that still. But when I
mm.
look back on all of it, it was that time, that moment in time that just was exhilarating for me.
Well, you got to realize that lofty dream early in your career even. So I think even that was a blessing. Some people have a particular vision and they never even get to dip their toe in it. So, oh, kudos
I
to
got
you
the
for having
I
that.
I had a live studio audience at one point. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
We've had people fly out to come be on the show. It was
Mm,
amazing, you know.
it sounds amazing. Oh, love it. And of course, your journey, just like everyone else's, is continuing to evolve. I mean, we don't know what tomorrow is going to hold, right? You may have that talk show again. You let me know what's going on. But right now, what's next for you right now in this moment, in this year, or the next even couple of years? What's coming up for you that we can expect to see?
This is going to be an unorthodox answer. But I am going to say this
Okay.
because I used to be the person who had it all mapped out and who was
Mm,
very clear and
okay.
said, this is from like when I was 13 and saw Oprah, I said, I'm going to be on TV and made it happen. And I was always that person. But
Mm,
now I'm of the mindset if I'm just taking the next best step. And what
mm,
I do now is I look and see what flows to me and what opportunities are out there. And I take the next best step because in the latter, while the first part of my career was very planned, the
mhm,
second part of my career has not been. It has
mm,
been how would I say it has been opportunities coming to me that I never anticipated. I never anticipated that I would be a publicist for Black and Missing in their
mm,
HBO documentary. I
mhm,
never could have planned that after that HBO reached out to me and asked me to do work with them and I worked with them on several
mm,
documentaries. I never would have determined after that that I would be a VP of a company. That was not in my bingo cards. I never would imagine that I would be leading a team and that the part that I love about connecting with people that now I'm uplifting my team to help them perform. That
mm,
was not mapped out. That
mm,
was not in the plan. It
yeah.
wasn't in the vision. And so while I do think there's a place for vision and knowing where you're going, for me, this stage of my life is just seeing what flows to me and being courageous to take the next step.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I could get a call tomorrow, right? And somebody say, "Hey, do you want to come back to TV or you want to do this?" Or
Right.
I
True.
just don't know what it's going to be. But what
Mm,
I do know is that I am willing to jump in the middle of the ocean
mm,
for whatever
mm,
is to come. And so
mm.
I'm just being open to what may come to me. And that could be bringing back my podcast that I did. I had a podcast called She's Big Time Now, where I was interviewing
Right.
people about how did they make it big. It
Mhm.
could be, I get another opportunity to be back on air. I really don't know. And I had to come to terms with it's okay not to know. What's
Yeah.
important is being courageous enough to when the door opens for you that you take the next best step.
Mhm.
Because I'm
Oh,
sure as I've interviewed people, most people did not end up where they thought they would. The dream may have been there,
right.
but how it manifested does not look like what they thought. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller, sometimes it's different, sometimes it's
Mhm.
even a different industry. And it's funny because I asked my team this the other day, and on my marketing team, our brand and communications team, I have an actress. I was like, "You're an actress?" I have somebody else who's a teacher. I have all these people who had all these different skill sets and visions that are now doing something they did not imagine they.
Media.
So
Okay.
that was probably not the answer that you were thinking and not the answer that many people would think when you say what's next. But I'm at a
Mhm.
stage in my life where I'm letting it unfold and seeing what flows to me. And I'm excited about whatever that is. It could be something really big that I never even anticipated.
Well, I think there's real beauty in that. I mean, that just means that you are literally comfortable in your skin and you're open to whatever God has for you. With all the skills and all of the capabilities that you have, it sounds like you're trusting that whatever comes next, you're going to be able to handle it. You're going to be able to choose. You're going to be able to flow. I think that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I have just two more questions for you. The first one is I want to make sure that we have touched upon everything that you wanted to talk about. So, is there anything that you wanted to share that we haven't had an opportunity to talk about yet?
There is one thing I'd like to
Yeah,
share.
please. Yes.
So I would say for a lot of my life, I thought that there was a formula.
Mm.
I thought that there was one way of kind of figuring things out. And if I could just replicate Oprah's formula, if I could just replicate this person's formula, everything would be perfect or would work
Mm.
out. And what I have been learning in my life, in the seasons of my life, is that we all have to create our own user manual. You can learn from other people, they
Yes.
can show you a path, but you have to create your own user manual. And I did not know that. For so many years, I thought that if I just did the formula, and people tell you that if you just do this single formula, it's all going to work out. But everybody's working with a different recipe.
Oh, yes.
And so I am in this season of my life of understanding my use. I'm building my user manual. And so if I were to leave something with people, I would say get as much knowledge and experience and things like that from different people. Learn from their expertise and journey, just like the classes that you offer or the program that you offer. Learn the process, but
Yeah.
then use that to create your own
Mhm.
user manual. That is going to be key.
Absolutely. 100%, because everybody brings their own essence to what they're doing. And that's what makes it special. That's what makes it stand out. That's what makes it worthwhile. Love that. Love that. You've got so many nuggets. I mean, I could go on, but I have one more question. One more question. And I'm going to read it because it's a bit more serious than all the others. Okay. So when you come to the very end of your days, and you have lived, you have loved, and you have shared all that you hoped that you would, what will your legacy be? In other words, what would you hope to leave behind?
I hope when I come to the end of my days that I have left a legacy that people will want to live brighter and that I have encouraged more people to go after their dreams
Hmm.
and to live their best lives possible. I want to inspire people. I think that's why my mom named me Joy. My mom and my dad named me Joy because I want joy. If I have touched someone, if I
Hmm.
have impacted a life where somebody was inspired and it helped them to live brighter, that would mean that I left the legacy that I wanted to leave.
Hmm.
And so I want when people think of me, I want them to say, wow, she impacted my life. Wow, she inspired me to go after my dream. Wow, she believed in me when other people didn't. Wow, she gave me a word when I needed a word. She inspired me, she
Hmm.
encouraged me. And because of her, I am a better person today.
Oh
That would
my
be
God.
great.
Woo!
That's what I would love. And I
Well,
think that's why I loved Oprah so much because she had the ability to cause people to see things in another way and to challenge how they saw their lives and to try to strive for to live their best life. And then I've now merged that a little bit with Mel Robbins. I'm like, I would love to be like
right.
this little bit
I
of
love
a
Mel
mix of a Mel Robbins and an Oprah
Robbins.
because Oprah interviewed the people that helped you to change your life. Mel Robbins does that too, but she also gives you the insights to change your
Mm.
life. And I
Mhm.
think the intersection of that is where I'd like to be, is a place to help people, to inspire them to live their best lives and to live brighter. I like that, live brighter.
Yes, yes, and you're definitely doing it, Joy. I have to tell you, just from meeting you, for all the years I've known you, my life has literally been lighter and brighter since I met you. In
No.
I don't even know how to describe it. You exude literally joy. So I'm blessed to know you. I thank you again for spending time, for sharing all of your wisdom with the listeners. And yes, I can't wait to see what evolves going forward. And just thank you again.
Well, thank you for having me. And you never know how life unfolds, how we met in a one little conference that led to you coming on my show, to led
Yeah,
to you launching your own podcast. So I'm excited about what's next for you. And I think that for everyone who listens to this, I just encourage you to go after your dreams, be open to how it could look,
yeah.
and don't be afraid to shine, to be visible, to share who you are, and to live authentically because people aren't looking for perfect, they're looking for authentic.
Yes, and speaking of not perfect, I forgot to ask. Hello. I forgot to ask, how can people get in touch with you? What is the best way for somebody to find you? And then we're going to wrap it up.
Well, I'm most active on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn profile where I get really vulnerable on there. I actually
Ooh.
share a lot. Like just today, I shared a story about me getting therapy when I went through a really bad breakup because it's Black Mental Health Awareness Day or something like that. So
Mhm. Yeah.
follow me on LinkedIn under Joy Sutton. I share a lot of vulnerable stories and I still share my journey there. And hopefully one day I'll get back to putting on my podcast. It's still out there and you can hear episodes of that. But I would say LinkedIn is where I spend a lot of my time in terms of connecting with the outer world.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, for the third time. Thank you for all of your time. Love you so much. Love you to pieces. And yes, it's a wrap. What a great conversation. As I sit with this conversation that I've just had with Joy, what stands out to me is that longevity is not based on one media moment. It is based on clarity, it is dependent on resilience, and it's about knowing your story and choosing to tell it with purpose for the benefit of those you serve. I've said this before. The brands that last are the ones that understand who they are, what they stand for, what they stand against, who they serve, and how to communicate all of that consistently, especially in times like this when the noise is loud in the world. So if you're building right now, if you're in a season where you're questioning the place, the traction, or the amount of attention that your brand is getting, just take a breath, okay? Take some time to refine your narrative and remember why you started your brand in the first place. Because when the opportunity for visibility comes, and it will, you want to be ready to leverage it, to leverage that attention on your brand. Thank you for tuning in. And if this conversation resonated with you, please share it with another designer who's also building with intention. Okay, as always, I am your partner in the journey. Till next time, ciao.